Hi, this is Steve Hopkins, head coach of River Group, and this segment is on the leadership development dimension of integrity. I love this one because often we think of it in quite an intuitive way, almost making the assumption that we have integrity, right? I know that's myself. And so I want to present a few things that actually ask us to do some thought and maybe some journaling and even some practice on enhancing and growing the dimension of integrity. So we don't fall prey to the idea that we have it and we're good here, okay? Even though, maybe the way we've been brought up, it's like we have integrity, so let's think about other important things. Let's talk first of all what we're talking about when we talk about integrity. And really, it's this concept of doing the right thing, right? Just doing the right thing. That's easy enough. But I also want to share with you this concept of consistency. And we're talking about consistency with yourself, your own integrity, right? Your own self consistency, right? So let's not make sure we're not focused on somebody else and say they have integrity. I like that. We're talking about ourselves. And so the things we set our mind to, we do. The things we deem important, we do. And you get to be the judge of that, by the way. Your alignment with your own values in alignment with your behaviors become your level of integrity. Others may judge you on whether that's good or bad, but you want to be aligned with yourself, being thinking about the things that are important, doing the things that are important, and doing them consistently. Now, where does this come in as far as business? Well, we're talking about the development of trust. The interaction with other people depend on people thinking about you and seeing you in a positive light, right? I can trust that person. Why? Because I get what they believe in, and they do reflect what they believe in. They do what they say they're going to do, right? And so just the ability to have other people develop trust with you is important. But again, that's kind of jumping forward because we're really talking about the trust and respect that you have in yourself. All right. The neat part about developing high level of integrity is I, I, I almost want to think about this idea of an inner peace with yourself. Right? We're not in conflict where we're thinking about one thing and doing another. We're thinking about one thing and doing that same thing, and it produces a very harmonious, very peaceful existence. All right, and bringing that into a business environment gives you strength, it gives you resolve, and it gives you some clarity so that you don't get distracted and pulled all different directions, starting from your inner core. All right. And so you have power moving forward. You have power to think clearly. You can make some assumptions about what's inside so that when you're looking outside, you can really process that in a positive way, right? Especially when it comes to people. So let's highlight some things that could pop out as far as opportunities for you and I, right? Low confidence behaviors. I'm just going to read off a couple, and it doesn't mean you have problems with all these or you have opportunities, but if one of these strike a chord, it may give us permission to look at developing integrity and working on this as an opportunity. All right. You ever gotten in a situation or see other people that rationalize ethical misconduct? They'll start telling a story why it was okay this time. All right. I know I've done that before. Well, that can be an indication that we have some challenges being as consistent as we like, and that's another thing. We act inconsistently when we're having challenges with integrity. All right. How about this one? Exaggerating or distorting the truth a little bit. Yeah. Yep. Been guilty of that as well, and that's because we're trying to behave in a way that kind of pivots away from what we're talking about as far as our core values, making promises you don't intend to follow through with, or failing to hold yourself accountable. These all crop up when we're kind of wrestling with being consistent in our description of integrity. All right, so how about this? High performance. So if any of those were triggering you, what could be something that we would strive for as a desired outcome in working on this? I'll read these to you as well that I jotted down. Following through on your commitments. Yep, sign me up for that for sure. Live through your own values. my own values, right? Communicating my values accurately, communicating myself accurately. Um, Not getting in a situation where I compromise my ethics to reach an outcome. And certainly my interactions with others, I want to be able to treat them ethically and with respect. Right? So those are those high performance metrics, if you will, those high performance behaviors that show up when we have a high operating system of integrity, consistently matching up with your values and demonstrating those outbound. So let me share a couple practice activities that you might find um, uh, challenging, maybe, but I find even repetitions with these, so the same thing, different flavor, often work very well for me. All right. So the first one maybe is just a journaling and a reflection activity. All right. So I want you to think back to the last time that you had a truth exaggeration memory. Okay. Think back, and it doesn't matter if it was the last week or last year, right? And just think, hey, when was the last time I was involved when I exaggerated the truth for whatever reason? I want you to spend some time thinking about that, journaling about that. What was the scenario? How did you act? What was it for? What was the motivation of that? How did you feel afterwards, right? Replay that a little bit. One, to acknowledge that we do it sometimes. Number two, to really work through the mechanics of that. Remember, the more self-awareness we have on things that we don't desire, it brings that up into clarity. So one, we can kind of contemplate it, but number two, that memory can come up when we're challenged by that same behavior in the future in real time. And we can say, ooh, I have this thought, but I don't want to challenge my integrity. I don't want to act differently than my values. And here's a scenario, I could walk through that door. And we'll have the awareness of it in real time, and it gives us an opportunity to pick a different option, a different behavior, different action. All right, so that's number one. Number two is another journaling one, but this is very, very powerful. And this just brings the connection between our heart, our mind, and a real physical action. And that's journaling about your own personal values, right? Don't care what they are. Think about them, start jotting them down. And some may become mushy and you feel like, that's not really something of substance. I just had a feeling. And then others will be resolute to you, all right? But putting them down on paper lets you process and kind of claim them and grab a hold of them in a very, very clear way. All right. And the more we think about these things, again, the more we can hold them up in moments of contrast when we have opportunities to support them and stand alongside them with behaviors, or the opposite. We're being pulled and tugged, kind of like the first practice activity. It's maybe a way where we exaggerated the truth in something that doesn't align with our values and our integrity. So I don't want to do that anymore, right? And there's many, many other personal values that come up in that way. So think about what they are, process them, and jot them down. All right. It's great exercise. All right. Here's one that's actually kind of a muscle building one. We'll land with this as we wrap up. And that is to choose a new, challenging, but possible action or activity for yourself. This is just a personal voyage for yourself, right? Could be anything. It's got to be new, all right? It's got to be a little challenging, all right? It has to be something that's possible. Don't make something impossible, all right? And all you want to do is make a plan that you're going to make a commitment to do that thing, all right? New, all right? And do that thing, all right? Make a decision, make a promise to yourself, and then work it out, right? It's kind of like creating a new habit. But we're doing this in a way that helps you make a promise to yourself and keep it, all right? The act of self integrity is just your conversation with yourself and said, I'm going to do that. I'm getting up 15 minutes earlier for the next 2 weeks, all right? Or I'm going to go for a walk in the morning every day in the next week, or whatever it is, all right? It doesn't have to be something absolutely profound, but it's just the exercise of saying, I want to keep a promise to myself. Because then we make it easier and easier to make that jump and just say, the promises I make to myself, I'm very, very good at keeping. I've practiced that over and over. Some silly things, sure, And then when it becomes difficult or some challenging or more to the core things, we can have that same success rate. Okay. And have fun with it. Pick some things that are challenging. You can continue to go with new and more difficult. All right. You can also then apply that to something in your past that you wished was more in place and has maybe waffled a little bit. And you're going to say, I want to make a new promise to myself about that. And in the past month, I've been working on some silly things, but I've been able to keep a promise to myself, raising the bar on your integrity level. All right, give those a try. Love to hear about them. Make comments wherever you might be seeing this video. And look forward to sharing your success in high performance level of the act of integrity. Look forward to seeing you on the other side of the river.